Okay, so today I want to run through a sound design patch or session for a gun sound that I was trying to make. Was struggling really hard with it to begin with, so it took me a while to figure it out. And I figured, layers are the best. Layer everything, always layer. So I'll show you I recorded 4 sounds and then I synthesized one. And I'll show you, I'll leave the synthesized part to the end and I'll show you what I recorded and how I edited and processed. So firstly, I'll turn that off. I recorded 4 sounds. The first one was me going into the microphone. And that's this one. Secondly, I recorded myself dropping some keys from one hand to another, and that was this. Thirdly, I recorded myself flicking a piece of paper in front of the mic, and that was this. And then I also recorded rubbing that paper together, and that was this. So they're my 4 sounds. Now I'll show you how I process them. Okay, so the first one obviously was the P or B into the mic. And that's processed. It sounded like this. Here we go. So there's not a whole lot to it. It's pretty simple. I've literally just trimmed it and faded it, dropped it 7 semitones, cut it off, rolled off with the EQ at about 40 hertz, boosted around 400 for the body, and then cut it off at 2K because I don't want any like attacky sort of sound onto that. It was just meant to be the lower end, and because it's not a lower end in a gun sound itself, I think that's it's enough. So I also added some saturation to make it a bit warmer. All I did with Satin here was drive it up to 50% and then bring down the mix down to 50% as well. So could have just driven it 25, you'd think, but it doesn't work that way. So yeah, okay. Also added compression to this, high ratio, well, fairly high ratio, I feel. Very high threshold, so it's only just getting the top end. Like the very loudest parts. The attack is very, very quick, and the release is pretty quick as well. And then I've just left the auto gain on and adjusted my wet and dry gains. Also added distortion through overdrive here, and I've literally just brought this down. And so it's only affecting like this small area, which is around 1000 hertz, and I have just brought down the wet dry mix from 50 to 27. Also added a limiter, which is a pretty reactive limiter. Put it onto punchy. Got a tiny look ahead, like really quick attack and really quick release, and that just makes it super reactive. And I've just boosted up by 2 dB. Okay, onto the keys. So the keys, the waveform itself, all I've done is, obviously trimmed it to the section that I wanted, and transposed it down 2 octaves. Then I added an EQ, cutting off at about 400, boosting around 2K, and just cutting off the end. That doesn't really do anything. Cutting off the top. And then again, with the limiter, except I've done it reacting a bit different, so I want it to start later, which is a later attack or slower attack, and a slower release as well. Yes. So that one sounds like this. Cool. All right, onto the paper flick. Now, this one, I dropped an octave, and obviously I faded it out. I cut off at around 100, boosted around 160, try and get some more body. That's pretty much where I feel like I get like a lot of the, like out of a kick or a snare, I get a lot around that frequency range. So like I try and boost around there to get that sort of impact. I also boosted around 2K to get more of that attack, like slappy sort of sound. But then I've cut it off at 4.5K because I don't want any highs in this section. So I've used this for like the more of the body of everything. So yeah. Okay, and then I've added distortion to this as well. Really opened up how much I'm affecting here in terms of frequency, and also really smashed up the dry wet mix, and then I've squashed everything a fair bit with the compressor here, and it sounds like this. Yeah, cool. Moving on to the paper rub. Now, obviously you can see the volumes that I've mixed them a little bit to get sounding a bit more prominent than others. I feel like, yeah, volumes mixing is like an easy way to mix something, but it's really effective when you're sound designing different layers, because it's like how much you're going to directly hear according to amplitude. So yeah, anyway, okay, so yeah, I've added, we'll go through the actual clip here. So all I've done is dropped it down 6 semitones, but you can see here it's at 60 BPM, which means I've halved it in time as well, just with that little button there. Okay, and processing is as follows. Yeah, pretty similar to the other one, cutting off at about 100, boosting it at 450, boosting again at 2K, and then cutting up, well, not cutting, sorry, high shelving it at 5.5. And that pretty much just sounds like this. So there's not a lot of it, obviously, because I've dropped it down 14 dB, but it's still like part of the essence. Once you pile it up, the dB just rises up as well. So okay, moving on to the next section of it. This first little clip, I've got minus 16 semitones, and this one I've just kept at the normal recorded semitones, obviously. Okay, and through the processing, I have, yeah, you can see I've cut at 600 and I've boosted around 1850. I boosted a lot around 1850. I wanted to get that sort of different tone to the other one, and also with the compression here, it really brings it out a lot more. So it's a low ratio, but the threshold is quite far down, so it's affecting a lot. Fast attack, medium release, left the auto gain on again, gained up the wet, and gained up the dryer. Again with Saturn, I've done the similar thing. I've just, but with this, I just drove it straight up, and you can see I've done a little bit of tone adjustment through here, and I've left the mix at 100%, so it's affecting it completely. And with the reverb, I added reverb to this. This was just when you drag over a reverb from your audio effects, this is the standard one that comes up, and I've literally just pulled back on the dry wet. I didn't see like any need to change it too much. Then I added a simple delay to this, and yeah, just like barely anything there, but this is what it sounds like. Yeah, so you kind of get that refraction, so it sounds like it's shot in like a canyon or something like that. And like you can just pretty much adjust that after, you know, bouncing it all out, if you want that in there or not. But it is handy to have something like that, depending on where you plan on using the sound. Okay, on to the last part. This is like just the tail end of the sound. As you can see here with this clip, I haven't done anything to this one. All I've done is I've cut them at different points, and I've used different parts of the sound, and I've staggered them at different intervals. As you can see, they don't all line up to the same. They're not all the same length, and they all have like different fades as well. So this one's just the same EQ as the other one. However, for this one, I did do a bit more. Oops. Obviously, I've halved it. I've dropped my performance heaps down to 40. The envelope's only at 27. And I've also transposed it down 12 semitones, which is octave. So this is my EQ for this. As you can see, cut off at 153, boost around 325, boost around 3K, and then high shelf at 11K. So I've got a tiny bit of simple delay on this, a tiny bit of ping pong. That sounds pretty good together. And then yeah, reverb, I did change this one a bit. Obviously I got a low cut, so I'm not using like reverbing all the low end stuff. A little bit of pre-delay, high quality, bumped up the stereo, brought the decay time down to about 550, and then went and dry mix to about 44%. I've also just found out like there was a bit of like annoying sort of frequencies around here, so I've just like notched this down. After you've put all this on there, it gets to sound a bit too much, you know. Yeah. Anyway, the last one. So this one's half timed again, and then yeah, dropped it an octave as well. EQ was literally exactly the same as the last one. Reverb's exactly the same as the last one, and the last EQ is the same as the last one as well. So it's not going to differ too much, but it was a different like clip, and it will fade at different times. So as you can see. Okay, so yeah, all together it's like pretty good, I think. So, yeah, quickly I'll just go over this Serum patch. I'm not gonna go too far into it because I've got like heaps of effects, but they're all only doing a tiny amount. So yeah, the basis of it is yeah, a little bit of sub, but that gets EQ'd out anyway. And then like the oscillator A has the Monster 4 wavetable, dropped the octave, 7 semitones and 19 cents. Second oscillator has basic shapes, which is just the sine wave, dropped it 2 octaves, 7 semitones and 14 cents. I've also got a bend plus on that one, and as you can see, it bends up. I'll solo this. You see I have a little bit of movement in here. I'm adding a little bit of wind over time, wind chimes over time for the noise. Yeah, so it adds like more throughout here. Yeah. I've put a comb plus on the filter. And that's cutting off 60 hertz. We've got resonance at about 11, and that's going up 46. The drive is at 0, and that's going up 55. So it's very quick sound as well, but I wanted it for the top end because I wasn't quite happy with the other one. So yeah. Okay, obviously I'm going to go over these real quick. So I've got a little bit of distortion you can see there. You can see my hyper and dimension here. It's not much. It's like even the size on that is 0. So I've literally just brought them down. Chorusing, not a lot again, tiny bit. It's all really little bits. On here, obviously, the phaser and the filter, I wanted them to affect differently. So this one I wanted to bring down as this goes, and then I wanted to bring the phaser up as it goes along the LFO. So yeah, compression, multi-band compression, threshold, brought that down, brought it up rather. Yeah, ratio at about 4:1. Yeah, same attack and release pretty much. That was like set already. Yeah, gained it up about 8 dB. It does clip every now and then, like in the multi-band itself, as you can see there when it goes red, but it's yeah, doesn't affect, because I got the volume down here, it's not going to affect it. But also it kind of gives it that distorted sound that you want anyway, so it's good. Yeah, a little bit of flanger, and then you can see here I've EQ'd out the bottom at around 117 and the top at nearly 13,000. So tiny bit of delay, as you can see here, and that's on the LFO as well. Same first LFO, and then the second LFO is just affecting the reverb as well, because I wanted to keep it more solid, the same as it affects the sub level. I wanted to keep it more solid as well, because you don't want a lot of like jumping around like this with reverb or low end stuff, because it starts sounding muddy. So I've just used them both for that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now everything like together sounds like this. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you like it and you can use this. Yeah, if you like it, then share it. Cheers, guys.
Oh, jeez, Frank. Oh, jeez, Rick. Oh, jeez, okay. Oh, jeez, okay.